All right, I had to go with plan B because my pen would not work while I recorded from the other program. So that's okay. I think the last video abruptly stopped when I got right here and found that the area was 27.7. The only disadvantage to this method is that you don't know the exact value right here of the sine of 60, and so you would not be able to calculate 16 square roots of 3. So if this was a multiple choice answer, a multiple choice question, A, B, C, D, and you had, let's say, choice A was 8 square roots of 3, choice B was 4 square roots of 3, choice C was 16 square roots of 3, and choice D was 32 square roots of 3, and this was the method that you used, you would calculate 27.7. Well, what you would have to do is come up here and type in each one of these and get a decimal answer. This one would be the one that would come up to be 27.7, and so that's how you would know to pick choice C. So I would still, if I were taking this test, I would still choose this method because there's nothing to find. You just type in the calculator, and then I would take each one of these answer choices and type them in my calculator until I found the one that had the same decimal value. Okay, so there's 1/2 AB sine C, there's 1/2 base time height, and this one over here would probably be my last option because when I set up the triangle that I need, the important triangle, the one that has the apothem and the radius and half of this side length, when I set that up and I find my central angle, this is actually half the central angle. So remember, half the central angle is this angle measure right here. And I'd say half the central angle is 360, because that's the total number of degrees in a circle, divided by 3. That's 120. And then half of 120 is 60. So that angle measure right there is 60, which means this one over here is 30, which means this is the leg that I mark X. This is the hypotenuse, so it's 2X. And this is the one that's marked X square roots of 3. Not that I can't work this problem, but X square roots of 3, when that equals 4, that means that I have to divide both sides by the square root of 3. And dividing both sides by the square root of 3 gives me a problem that I have to rationalize the denominator on. If you're keeping it exact. So this ends up being 4 square roots of 3 over 3. That's the value of your apothem. So the value of your apothem then for your formula, the area is 1/2 times your apothem, 4 square roots of 3 over 3, times your perimeter, and the perimeter up here is 3 times 8, so that's 24. So let's see, half of 24 is 12, and then we get 12 times 4 square roots of 3 over 3, and then that 3 will cancel out with that, leaving that 4, and that gives me 16 square roots of 3, which is the same thing that I got down here, which we all know is about 27.7. So this would be the last method that I would choose to use, and I would quickly see that right here, because I know I'm going to end up with this ugly fraction for my apothem length, and then that's just going to be ugly math. But you see, it worked out the same. So I don't care how you do it, but I would highly suggest that you memorize this formula right here, and then when you take your test and you have, I would try to print this out if you possibly can, and you do a brain dump on this part of your formula sheet. That's what I would strongly suggest. Okay, let's see if we can find problem number 2. Problem number 2 very, very busy picture. If you'll notice, the first thing I did right here was try to simplify my picture. I'm using these formulas that are on that circle formula sheet. Notice that these formulas are not on your formula sheet, so they have to be memorized. But this is where I'm going to be referring to. So that circle note page that we posted for you, you might want to get that out and, practice memorizing those. So they want me to find the values of x, y, and z. I'm going to start by finding x. This is this one right here, the secant tangent one. I have a secant down here and I have a tangent one, and the formula is the length of the whole secant times the outside part is equal to the length of the tangent squared. Now we understand that we're not talking about the entire tangent, because a tangent is a line that goes on forever and ever, but the distance from this here to here. So the length of the whole secant, well, that secant is 6 plus 5 plus x. That's the whole secant right there. And then we have to multiply that times the length of just the outside part. Okay, and then we're going to multiply that times the tangent squared. So this shortens into 11 plus x. And then I've got to multiply that times 5, which means I need to distribute the 5. So 55 plus 5x. And then on this one, I've got to square the 5, and I've got to square the square root. So that becomes 25 times 3, because the square root and the square cancel each other out. So this becomes 55 plus 5x is equal to 75. All right. Now I'm going to solve for x, so subtract 55 from both sides, and that leaves me 5x is equal to 75 minus 55, that's going to leave me 20. Divide both sides by 5, and I get x is equal to 4. So this right here is 4. All right, so now I go over to this piece right here, and they want me to find y. Well, remember, this piece right here is now 4. I just found that out to be 4. So this piece is 4. Now I have the value of x. So I'm now using this chord, and the chord formula is 4 times 6. This piece times this piece is going to equal 8 times y. This piece times that piece. So the pieces that make up a chord, the product of those two pieces will equal the product of any other chord. Okay, so that's 24 is equal to 8y. Divide both sides by 8, and y is equal to 3. So now I know y is 3. And this piece over here was the piece that I marked 4. Okay, so now when I'm finding part z, z is going to be this one right here, secant times secant. It's the whole length, the length of the whole thing, and the length of this whole thing is what, 15? 6 plus 4 is 10, 10 plus 5 is 15. The whole thing times the outside part. So 15 times 5 is going to equal the length of the whole thing. Well, that's 6 plus z. That's the length of the whole thing times the outside part. So 15 times 5 is 75. And then distribute the 6. And we've got 75 minus 36 is 39. And then divide both sides by 6. And you get z is 6.5. Okay, so x is 4. y is 3, and z was 6.5. And the answers, I believe, are at the end of this worksheet, if I'm not mistaken. (16 square roots of 3, 4, 3, and they left it 13 over 2, but 13 over 2 reduces down to 6.5.